Now at 9, a new program in Missouri looks to address a substitute teacher shortage.
President Biden wraps up his overseas trip while lawmakers remain divided on spending bills back home. I'm Lauren Blanchard in Washington with more on the latest negotiations coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Abby. It is Election Day in Missouri and Kansas, with voters deciding several issues. Voters in Joplin, in particular, took to the polls to decide a tax issue. The ballot question would impose a local use tax of 3 1/8% and ties it to the rate of the total local sales tax. The use tax would apply to purchases made online from vendors outside of Missouri, where the local sales tax cannot be applied.
The senior citizens made the comment that, well, I don't buy anything online, so I'm either not going to vote because it doesn't bother me, or I'm going to vote yes because it's not going to bother me at all, not going to affect me at all because I don't buy anything online. But you're absolutely right. This is a tax. It is something that is going to increase the sales tax for anything that's purchased on the internet.
Voters in Missouri today only decided on ballot issues, not candidates. Voters in Kansas, however, made their choice on both. Several counties and municipalities in SEK voted on local school board, county, and city positions, as well as some tax issues. Have the latest results from tonight's elections on our website, so go ahead and check that website out, KOAMnewsnow.com. There's a severe shortage of substitute teachers in the state of Missouri, and nationwide for that matter. And now, the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, or DESE, has removed a barrier for substitute certification. KOAM's Chris Warner has more on how they're making it work.
Michaela Donham is a substitute teacher. Right now, she's helping out at the Carl Junction Primary Center. She began subbing last year and has completed at least 60 college credit hours, which, up until now, has been the requirement to get certified as a substitute in Missouri. But there's a severe substitute shortage that even Michaela has noticed.
We were really needing substitutes in our building. I have seen other schools that I've worked at that they will replace specials teachers and put them in real classrooms if needed, which kind of takes away from our students.
DESE recently added a new pathway to becoming a certified substitute in Missouri. Those interested in being subs can now take a 20-hour online course from DESE to receive their certification. Carl Junction Superintendent Dr. Phil Cook is hopeful that will bring in more candidates.
That'll help a little bit. It's still up to us to, when people come in to apply to be a sub, it's important that we're putting good people in the classroom with our kids.
Carl Junction isn't the only district seeing the shortage. Neosho is another on that long list. Neosho Superintendent Dr. Jim Cummins sees the change as opening a door to other qualified candidates that may not have completed the 60 college credit hours.
To me, what DESE has done is allowed us to do that, to go out and train people that we need to come in and be subs without going through some of the old standards.
Michaela says the change is a good thing, as the need for subs is causing other issues in the schools.
Personally, I think it's helpful because our kids are in such a spot where we're really in a bind that if they aren't getting someone in that classroom to watch over them, to care for them that day, then they might get their resources taken away from them.
She's hopeful more people will sign up to get their substitute certification.
I 10 out of 10 recommend being a substitute.
In Carl Junction and Neosho, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
Carl Junction approved a pay raise for substitutes just last week, bringing their daily pay up to $100 in an effort to attract more qualified candidates. CDC estimates about half of adult COVID survivors were unvaccinated. This as of August. The agency recommends even previously infected people get those shots, citing a modest but significant increase in protection against infection. Children as young as 5 can now line up for a COVID-19 vaccine. This as the CDC grants full approval for Pfizer's shots. Meanwhile, the battle over vaccine mandates continues across the country. Fox News correspondent Jonathan Seary has more.
A CDC independent advisory panel voting Tuesday to recommend Pfizer's COVID vaccine for children ages 5 through 11. The green light sets the stage for millions of children to roll up their sleeves.
It is our ongoing responsibility to make sure as many people as possible are vaccinated and protected from COVID-19.
Younger children will receive 1/3 of the dose authorized for Americans 12 and older, and the shots will be delivered by smaller needles. More than 20,000 pediatricians, family doctors, and pharmacies are ready to distribute the shots. Doctors say an endorsement of the vaccine is timely ahead of the winter holidays, when health experts say we could see another spike in infection rates.
Certain surveys have indicated that only 27% of parents are going to let their kids get vaccinated. So that's a very important issue that we have to overcome.
Meanwhile, in New York City, about 1,000 firefighters are on unpaid leave for not complying with the vaccine mandate. The FDNY's commissioner says his department is also seeing a growing number of sick calls, claiming some members are calling out to skirt the vaccination requirement. It's something the union denies.
You would expect medical leave to go up because you have more members doing more work with less companies out there doing more hours.
And today, Pfizer said it's on track to deliver more than 2 billion doses of its vaccine this year. In Atlanta, Jonathan Siri, Fox News.
Democrats are still weighing issues like family leave, prescription drug prices, and immigration in a massive spending bill. But are they any closer to a vote as President Biden heads home from overseas? Fox's Lauren Blanchard has more now from Washington.
This decade, we have to make significant progress.
President Biden hoped he could fully concentrate on global climate issues.
The single most important thing that's gotten the attention of the world is climate. Because we want to be able to breathe and we want to be able to lead the world.
But back home, the lack of support within his own party to pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill and move forward on his Build Back Better framework overshadowed much of his overseas visit. President Biden began his trip touting a $1.75 trillion framework he said could pass the Senate.
Did you sign off on the framework on Friday prior to the president announcing it?
I'm not going to talk about the specifics of my conversations. I believe that Joe will be there.
Senator Joe Manchin says he first must see the Congressional Budget Office, or CBO, score.
They need to pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill. That shows good faith.
Progressives have held up House votes on the bipartisan infrastructure bill. They still want paid family leave, new prescription drug policies, and immigration reform included in the larger bill, though Tuesday signaling they may allow a vote on infrastructure this week.
The president has indicated that he wants his agenda moving forward, and I feel very confident that Democrats will move forward in the House and the Senate.
Democrats are looking at a Thanksgiving deadline for the Build Back Better bill, as it will take anywhere between 10 days and 2 weeks to get a CBO score, and possibly moderates on board. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes this time now to honor another four-state hero. Carl Studebaker served in the U.S. Air Force. Native of Fredonia, Kansas, Studebaker earned several awards, and we are proud to thank and honor Staff Sergeant Carl Studebaker. He's tonight's four-state hero. Nick is next with a complete look at the forecast, and later, a former local high school standout aiming to make an impact in her freshman season at Missouri Southern. Gonna have details in sports.
Mother Nature played the exact same tune from yesterday all over again. We kept the clouds in place, temperature stayed cool, but the day started out dry. And then we saw rain chances percolate back up and work back in from the west throughout the course of the afternoon and certainly into this evening. The latest look that we have for you from Indigo Sky outside of Seneca, Missouri has been showing some wet pavement because we have seen a little bit of rain try to build back in our southern counties as we got this evening underway. But rain or not, as long as the cloud cover held firm, so did the temperatures. We only made it to the mid-40s early yesterday afternoon. You can even argue late yesterday morning, dropping back into the upper 30s to near 40 this morning, and then 47. That was the warmest that we could go for today. But we are going to see changes for the better roll in once we get past this last bout of rain, which again, has been building in throughout the course of the day, but really making its presence known as we continue throughout the course of the night. This is just another band of light to sometimes moderate rainfall that will continue throughout the course of the night. Then we're going to see this start to amscray as we go into the day tomorrow. This has not been a washout. We weren't expecting these rain chances this week to be big washouts, but it's been trying to accumulate in some spots, averaging out to about 1/10 of an inch on the average. But we are not quite done with these rain chances yet. This will be around as we go throughout the rest of the night and certainly as we go into the morning drive. But again, the cloud cover, that's been the dominant story in terms of how temperatures fared throughout the course of the day. Around noon, we were in the lower to middle 40s. We saw more upper 40s. That's at least a little bit of improvement compared to yesterday. But ever since we got the evening underway, you saw how we dropped back into the mid 40s by about the 6 o'clock hour. And temperatures, they are once again slowly going to drop back into the upper 30s to near 40 as we continue with this one final batch of rain. This is not being driven by anything at the surface, though. We have a weak area of high pressure north of Kansas City. That's keeping a light northeast and easterly breeze in place. This upper low, though, this was the same low that I was tracking around California and Nevada the other day. Once we get this out of here, we are going to improve for the better quite immensely as we go toward the weekend. So this is going to be a band of light to moderate rain that will continue throughout the overnight for some of you. But once we get after the morning drive, here's 7 a.m., there's the afternoon. The rain chances are out of here, and we are going to try and see some more peaks of the sun tomorrow, so that will definitely be a nice change of pace. 39 in the morning, though, 45 by noon. I only see us topping out near 49, though, with a light east breeze of 5 to 10 miles per hour. As for the additional amounts of rain, we're not talking about big amounts again, maybe another tenth to about half an inch of rain. That's pretty much it. As we go into Thursday morning, though, some of the cloud cover is going to try and break apart. That's going to push us back into the mid-30s for overnight lows before we go back into the lower 50s for Thursday. So that is definitely a step in the right direction. But as we head toward Thursday morning and Friday morning with those lows in the mid-30s and maybe some lower 30s, we got to watch out for that. That could certainly be our first frost of the season. But 56 Friday, dry through the weekend with highs back in the 60s and pushing near 70 by Monday and Tuesday, Jordan.
All right, Nate, thanks so much. Coming up, more trouble getting those planes in the sky.
More cancellations on Tuesday as American Airlines deals with major staffing shortages. I'm William Lajeunesse in Los Angeles. Details coming up.
Supply chain crisis making it even harder to get those toys and gifts under the Christmas tree this year. That's what's being predicted anyway. That's why some believe this could be the most expensive Christmas we've seen in decades. We're dealing with a shortage of raw and packing materials and people panic buying, which is making it harder to find things on store shelves. The average ocean freight rate cost is up thousands of dollars per shipping container, which is driving up prices for consumers, of course. Also, the average time it takes ports to get from their origin points to their destination has also increased by more than 20 days. Department of Justice sues to stop publishing company Penguin Random House from acquiring publishers Simon & Schuster. They are two of the 5 biggest publishers here in the U.S. The DOJ argues that combining them would give Penguin Random House too much power over content, authorship, and author compensation. The two companies, however, called it a merger, quote, a pro-consumer, pro-author, and pro-bookseller transaction. Flights are still being canceled, but at a much slower pace as American Airlines recovers from 5 days of travel nightmares. Fox News correspondent William Lajeunesse has more from L.A.
We got here yesterday to find out our flight was canceled.
It's a familiar story among stranded passengers nationwide. American Airlines canceling thousands of flights over the past 5 days. And in many cases, travelers are still trying to find a new way home. The problems started when high winds took out service at Dallas-Fort Worth, America's main hub, which meant pilots and flight attendants couldn't get to their assignments, prompting massive staffing shortages.
The airlines need to be less aggressive in their scheduling. They're just trying to fly as many places as they can, and then when there are problems, things go really bad fast.
And that could lead to even bigger problems as we head into the busy holiday season, with travel experts saying communication will be key as airlines work to get back to pre-pandemic staffing levels.
Opt into all notifications from your airline so that you are one of the first to know there's a problem.
American has canceled more than 2,000 flights since Friday, impacting more than 136,000 travelers so far. The pace of cancellations is slowing, but the airline still scrapped more than 3% of its flights on Tuesday, and experts say there will not be a quick fix.
Take that deep breath and have a little bit of patience, because this is such a complex system. This isn't a simple problem. And that means it doesn't have a simple one-off solution.
American says about 1,800 flight attendants that had been furloughed during the pandemic are returning to work this week. In Los Angeles, William Lajeunesse, Fox News.
Next, going against a vaccine mandate.
The U.S. military is struggling to decide just how to handle service members refusing COVID-19 vaccines. I'm Kevin Cork in Washington with more on possible penalties. That's coming up.
The House laying out a new strategy aimed at working to prevent active military and veteran suicides. The plan includes a federal focus on firearms dealers. The Department of Justice is working to finalize a rule requiring them to make secure storage or safety devices available for purchase. The ATF will also issue a best practices guide to all federal firearm dealers. President Biden also announced a federal push to get those at risk of suicide to voluntarily limit their access to anything that could be used for harm. For the tens of thousands of unvaccinated military personnel, it's either get the shots or face a wide range of potential consequences. Fox News correspondent Kevin Cork has more on what's at stake for men and women in uniform.
Military officials are deciding if and how they'll penalize service members who refuse to get vaccinated against COVID-19. But as deadlines to get the jabs are drawing near, the military says it will maintain a sense of compassion surrounding unvaccinated people's concerns.
Leaders have a range of tools available to them to help troops make the right decisions for themselves.
What the military can't promise, though, is a uniformed response to those refusing the shots or seeking an exemption.
Each service, each unit within each service has a different set of operational requirements and demands, deployment schedules.
Roughly 60,000 active duty personnel are still unvaccinated. And while those soldiers will face regular COVID tests and be required to distance themselves from others, defense officials say individual commanders could also decide to reassign them to other jobs and even restrict their travel, meaning careers could be on the line. Religious exemptions may also be void if military leaders believe they could jeopardize the ability to complete necessary tasks. Meanwhile, in an effort to help more Americans get vaccinated, the White House announcing Monday any employer with at least 100 workers must guarantee them paid time off so they can get the shots. The Biden administration says those companies must also provide paid sick time for anyone recovering from vaccine side effects. In Washington, I'm Kevin Cork, Fox News.
Coming up, there's a new demand for newer music on vinyl records. How that demand, though, has created a problem. Music lovers may be changing the way they listen to their favorite artists. That's because vinyl record sales have been booming amid this pandemic, growing 29% in 2020. That's according to the Recording Industry Association of America. Michael Jackson right there and Prince continue to be some of the top sellers, but customers are also asking for newer artists, which can be hard to come by. After the pandemic shuttered businesses and created issues with the global supply chain, pressing plants were backed up with orders and unable to meet demand. With industry-wide delays, there's no word on when supply and demand will catch up. Music industry experts suggest putting in some vinyl orders months in advance just to be sure. All right, had to put this video in there. A hungry bear in New Jersey finding his morning breakfast. The video showing the bear approaching a bird feeder, snatching the food, but then watch this. He kind of, I don't know if he gets his fill of whatever food is in that bird feeder. And he's like, what's in this? Huh? What you got in this? Huh? Let me check it out. Happened this morning in Rockaway, New Jersey. The owner says bears aren't uncommon in that part of town. Proving, once again, bears are a lot like humans and vice versa, right? I kind of mean that in a good way, I guess. 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports coming your way.
The Oklahoma State Health Department is launching a new way to track COVID-19 in the state. I'm Bronte Sorotsky with why health experts say this could help Oklahomans slow the spread of the virus in their own communities.
Dinosaurs are some of the newest climate change activists. I'm Jackie Ibanez with more on how prehistoric fossils are coming back to life to urge humans to stop using fossil fuels. That's straight ahead.
Oklahoma State Department of Health has a new way for state residents to keep track of COVID-19 in their communities. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky spoke with an epidemiologist about the state's new COVID-19 tracking portal and how they say it could help Oklahomans to make better health decisions for themselves.
The Oklahoma State Health Department is launching a new way for Oklahomans to keep themselves safe.
The pandemic's not over,
we are still, as an agency, monitoring it very closely. But this was the right time to really say, hey, let's make those next steps and in transition and really allow the individuals to really make some of those choices for themselves.
Now, Oklahomans can take control of their health information with the start of their self-serve COVID-19 portal.
What it does is when you test positive for COVID through your hospital or through a lab, what'll happen is when that lab result gets reported, individuals will receive a text message stating that they have a lab result and that's positive.
The new system allows Oklahomans to easily send their COVID-19 status to anyone in their contacts and will allow them to print out a letter with when and how long they should isolate for.
It's the opportunity for individuals to be notified and to receive information about what next steps that it would be important for them to take.
Then, those contacts who may be infected can even report their symptoms, if any.
They can actually go in and say, hey, I want to, report if I develop symptoms, or how long do I need to quarantine?
The department says their biggest hope from this is to get Oklahomans a better understanding of the steps to take if they are infected to help slow down the current spread. I'm Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
For more information about this new portal and how to access it, go ahead and visit our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Holiday shipping season is upon us, and one company is charging you more to get those packages where they need to be on time. Fedex announcing they're going to be adding a fuel surcharge to all FedEx express, ground, and freight shipments. These charges went into effect on Monday. The company says they added these charges because of incremental costs associated with the challenging operating market. FedEx plans to add more surcharges in January, which means many shipping rates are going to increase by an average of roughly 6%. Car accidents involving alcohol and marijuana are rising. New research suggests deadly car accidents linked to marijuana use and the use of both alcohol and marijuana have shot up within the past few years. Crash deaths linked to marijuana use jumped from 9% in 2020 to 21.5% in 2018. And deaths caused by both marijuana and alcohol use hit 10.3%. Researchers in Boston say these statistics disprove the theory that legalizing marijuana use is going to reduce the recreational use of other drugs, alcohol included. Well, dinosaurs know a thing or two about going extinct, right? But now one former fossil is coming back from the grave, sort of, to warn us about how we could be experiencing a similar fate. Fox News correspondent Jackie Ibanez reports.
Going extinct is a bad thing.
Climate activists can take on many shapes and forms, including dinosaurs. Meet Frankie, a prehistoric creature hoping to send a wake-up call to mankind, telling us we could be the next ones to go extinct if the climate crisis continues.
At least we had an asteroid. What's your excuse?
It's all part of the United Nations Don't Choose Extinction campaign, highlighting the world's mass consumption of fossil fuels, which experts say contribute to global warming.
There is a crisis. We do have to act, but we have the solutions. We know what to do, and we can do it. It's doable.
One of the solutions lies in harnessing clean energy, which isn't as easy as you may think, especially when data from the UN found governments around the world spend more than $400 billion every year funding fossil fuel development.
Imagine if we had spent hundreds of billions per year subsidizing giant meteors. That's what you're doing right now.
But Frankie isn't the only dinosaur educating people about the dangers of fossil fuels. In Bosnia, a group of artists have modeled this T-Rex sculpture after Frankie using more than 1,700 pounds of charcoal. It's on display in the capital of Sarajevo, one of the most polluted cities in the world. The artists say they hope it will inspire people to think about their role in protecting the planet. Frankie was voiced by actor Jack Black. His message comes as global leaders are now discussing ways to reduce our impacts on the environment at the UN Climate Change Summit in Scotland. Jackie Ibanez, Fox News.
A bit later, one more challenge for many restaurants to survive this pandemic.
Outdoor dining was a crucial tool for restaurants to survive last year's pandemic winter. I'm Madison Allworth in New York City. Coming up, I'll explain why outdoor dining might be tougher for those restaurants this year.
Mother Nature played the exact same tune from yesterday all over again. We kept the clouds in place, temperature stayed cool, but the day started out dry, and then we saw rain chances percolate back up and work back in from the west throughout the course of the afternoon and certainly into this evening. The latest look that we've had for you from Indigo Sky outside of Seneca, Missouri has been showing some wet pavement because we have seen a little bit of rain try to build back in our southern counties as we got this evening underway. But rain or not, as long as the cloud cover held firm, so did the temperatures. We only made it to the mid-40s early yesterday afternoon. You can even argue late yesterday morning, dropping back into the upper 30s to near 40 this morning, and then 47. That was the warmest that we could go for today. But we are going to see changes for the better roll in once we get past this last bout of rain, which again, it's been building in throughout the course of the day, but really making its presence known as we continued throughout the course of the night. This is just another band of light to sometimes moderate rainfall that will continue throughout the course of the night. Then we're going to see this start to amscray as we go into the day tomorrow. This has not been a washout. We weren't expecting these rain chances this week to be big washouts, but it's been trying to accumulate in some spots, averaging out to about 1/10 of an inch on the average. But we are not quite done with these rain chances yet. This will be around as we go throughout the rest of the night, and certainly as we go into the morning drive. But again, the cloud cover, that's been the dominant story in terms of how temperatures fared throughout the course of the day. Around noon, we were in the lower to middle 40s. We saw more upper 40s. That's at least a little bit of improvement compared to yesterday. But ever since we got the evening underway, you saw how we dropped back into the mid 40s by about the 6 o'clock hour, and temperatures, they are once again slowly going to drop back into the upper 30s to near 40 as we continue with this one final batch of rain. This is not being driven by anything at the surface though. We have a weak area of high pressure north of Kansas City. That's keeping a light northeast and easterly breeze in place. This upper low though, this was the same low that I was tracking around California and Nevada the other day. Once we get this out of here, we are going to improve for the better quite immensely as we go toward the weekend. So this is going to be a band of light to moderate rain that will continue throughout the overnight for some of you. But once we get after the morning drive, here's 7 a.m., there's the afternoon. The rain chances are out of here, and we are going to try and see some more peaks of the sun tomorrow, so that will definitely be a nice change of pace. 39 in the morning, though, 45 by noon. I only see us topping out near 49, though, with a light east breeze of 5 to 10 miles per hour. As for the additional amounts of rain, we're not talking about big amounts again, maybe another 1/10 to about ½ an inch of rain. That's pretty much it. As we go into Thursday morning, though, some of the cloud cover is going to try and break apart. That's going to push us back into the mid-30s for overnight lows before we go back into the lower 50s for Thursday. So that is definitely a step in the right direction. But as we head toward Thursday morning and Friday morning with those lows in the mid-30s and maybe some lower 30s, we got to watch out for that. That could certainly be our first frost of the season. But 56 Friday, dry through the weekend with highs back in the 60s and pushing near 70 by Monday and Tuesday, Jordan.
Thanks so much again. You ever watch those shows where they install big, expensive fish tanks? It's pretty cool to watch them. High-end fish tanks are the latest home design craze, but the boom in designer tank demand has coincided with the shortage in key aquarium building materials, and the supply chain crisis has impacted the arrival of other materials, including the fish themselves. Fox Business Network's Kelly O'Grady has more from Los Angeles.
With all this time spent at home during the pandemic, high-end fish tanks have become the new home design craze. Part decor, part entertainment, these fish tanks can weigh as much as 75,000 pounds and cost as much as $750,000. Now, that initial setup cost is only part of what you're going to pay. The fish themselves can cost hundreds of dollars each, and you might be paying as much as $5,000 in weekly maintenance costs.
It's been incredible. We've seen probably a 300 to 400% increase in the demand for new installations. Typically, we'll do anywhere between 3 to 6 installations a year. And from 2020 until now, we've probably secured about 15 to 20 new projects. So it's been quite an increase.
Wow, people want their fish tanks, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And the supply chain crisis, how are you seeing that impact everything from sourcing materials to production time?
Well, at the start of the pandemic, we saw a shortage in the raw material, the acrylic that we use to create these aquariums. They went to the sneeze shields that we see at all the retailers, which is obviously a necessary priority, but now we're able to get the raw materials more regularly, but we're seeing a backlog in all of the filtration components that we need to run these beautiful aquariums.
The pandemic has really impacted the way that people invest and view their homes, and these fish tanks give owners a way to express what's important to them. And these are certainly not your childhood goldfish bowls. Kelly O'Grady in Los Angeles for Fox Business.
Coming up in sports, Missouri Southern women's basketball team preparing for their first exhibition game of the season. Also, KC Chiefs adding to their defense ahead of the trade deadline. Jacob Leonard has that and more next.
Kansas City Chiefs added to their defense today ahead of the NFL trade deadline. Kansas City has acquired linebacker Melvin Ingram from the Pittsburgh Steelers. In exchange, Kansas City sending Pittsburgh a 6th-round pick. Ingram was a 1st-round pick by the Chargers back in 2012. After 9 seasons with the Chargers, he signed a 1-year deal with the Steelers last offseason. Ingram is a 3-time Pro Bowler with 50 sacks and 13 forced fumbles in 10 years in the league. Speaking of the Chiefs, they're back to 500. Chiefs beat the Giants last night 20-17 to get to 4-4 this year. Now, it definitely wasn't the best night offensively, but running back Derek Gore was a bright spot for Kansas City. The first-year running back rushed for 48 yards on 11 carries and scored his first career touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, he ran well. He's been doing it since training camp, and he finally got his opportunity, and he went out there and executed and played well for us. And so I think that whole running back room has stepped up in different roles this entire season. And as the season goes, with the offensive line continue to getting better and better at run blocking and doing that type of stuff, I think that'll be a big part of our offense.
The Kansas Jayhawk Conference has announced that Butler Community College must forfeit all of their wins this season after playing an ineligible player. Now, Butler was supposed to be the number 3 seed in the Jayhawk Conference playoffs this weekend with a 5-2 record, but now they're technically 0-8. So here's why that is important for our area. Coffeyville's the number 1 seed and the regular season conference champion. Red Ravens were supposed to host Fort Scott in the first round of the playoffs on Sunday, but now Butler is the 8 seed with an 0-8 record, so it's kind of a tough break for Coffeyville. Instead of hosting 1-7 Fort Scott, they'll host Butler, who was previously 5-2 and seeded 3rd. That game, by the way, will be in Coffeyville on Sunday afternoon. The Missouri Southern women's basketball team is just 2 days away from their first exhibition game of the season. The Lions hit the road to Wichita Thursday night to face Wichita State in their only preseason exhibition of the year. The Southern is picked to finish 9th in the MIAA preseason coaches poll, coming off a 9-14 record last year. The Lions bring back 8 from that team and add 6 newcomers, including 5 freshmen. One of those freshmen that will contribute pretty early is a local girl, Lacey Stokes, who was an all-state player from Mount Vernon.
The one thing Lacey brings, her quickness, to be able to push the ball up and down the floor. She does a great job in transition, getting by people. She does a great job making good decisions, and the thing she does, she knows how to finish. You know, some of her shots look like they're maybe forced. She's used to shooting that shot, so she's confident that she can make it, and she's very effective. In our practice and everything else, she's done a great job of getting to the basket and finishing.
And that's a look at sports. We're back with more news after the break.
The National Crime Insurance Bureau is out with its list of most stolen vehicles for 2020. Last year, the most stolen was a Ford full-sized pickup, followed by the Chevy full-sized pickup. Also popular among car thieves was the Honda Civic and Accord, with the Toyota Camry rounding out the top 5. Auto thefts surged last year from 2019, due in part to the economic downturn caused by this pandemic. Restaurants in the Big Apple of New York City are gearing up for winter outdoor dining, but the mayor's new ban might freeze plans to keep diners warm. Fox Business Network's Madison Allworth has more.
Outdoor dining has become a staple in so many cities, including New York. Restaurant setups like this one were crucial to getting customers back during the depths of the pandemic. For the first time last year, New York City allowed propane heaters to allow diners to eat outside. But this year, that's changing again. The mayor no longer allowing those propane heaters. I'm here with Stratus Morfogen, one of the partners at Brooklyn Chop House. The industry has been through so much. A move like this, what does it do to an already hurting industry?
Well, again, from the beginning of the pandemic, every rule or every mandate has been pushed against us, and the hospitality industry has been unjust. And what happens now is that propane tanks, if we're not going to be able to use them anymore, we're going to find a lot of shortcuts because a lot of restaurateurs cannot afford to spend $25,000, $50,000 on electrical panels. And what I'm afraid they're going to do is that they're going to run extension cords from their main building. And when you have an extension cord with weather like New York City, that's going to lead to fires. And especially when there's wood and canvas, it's not a good combination.
So this is a move that's being made because of safety concerns. Last year, there were 1,200 complaints, but there were no fires. So yeah, explain to me why you do fear that electric or these alternatives could actually be more dangerous than propane.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, you're dealing with inclement weather, exposed wires. To me, propane is the safest. And, living out east, everybody uses propane. I think there are more drownings than there are fatalities from propane. And I think what the mayor should do, again, one size doesn't fit all. They should allow us to put an outdoor cap where we store the propane heaters.
Restaurants can apply for a $5,000 grant to replace their heaters with alternative options. But the question still stands, how do they power them safely? In New York City, I'm Madison Allworth, Fox Business.
Speaking of food, just going to learn about a new cooking show on HBO Max, Hollywood Nation, coming your way. An Emmy winner getting cooking, Star Wars fans getting a glimpse at a new series, and a hit show going on tour. Fox's Ashley Dvorkin has the latest in the Hollywood Nation.
Daniel, left side. Fold in the cheese, return to a galaxy far, far away, and sing along in your city in the Hollywood Nation. The Masked Singer is taking this show on the road. A 50-city national tour announced for 2022 will feature favorite characters and surprise celebrity guests. The Masked Singing extravaganza kicks off May 28th in St. Louis. Tickets go on sale November 3rd.
I intend to rule with respect.
Fans get a look at a new Star Wars chapter as Disney Plus releases the trailer for The Book of Boba Fett. The legendary bounty hunter adventures from the galaxy's underworld to a return to a Tatooine once ruled by Jabba the Hutt. The original series premieres on the streamer December 29th.
Fold in the cheese.
And HBO Max has ordered a cooking competition series from Schitt's Creek star Dan Levy and Boardwalk Pictures. Levy says the Big Brunch is about spotlighting those who create communities around their cooking. Chefs will share stories and business dreams while competing for a life-changing prize as they redefine what it means to dine between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. The series premieres in 2022. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
That cooking show is going to be off the hook, in my opinion, anyway. That's our time for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Going to leave you with video of rare white African lion cubs in Spain. Oh, be safe. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.